Hello, everyone, and welcome to Miss Sharon's Reading Corner. I am Miss Sharon, and today I have a special treat for you. What am I wearing, you ask, Teresa? Well, I am wearing a headband. What does my headband have in it? It has a feather. Isn't that pretty? Well, I'm wearing a headband and some long drop earrings. Is it a special occasion? It is. Today we're reading a very special story called Rap a Tap Tap. Here's Bojangles. Think of that. This story is about a man named Bojangle, and Bojangle was from a era that was so much fun and did a lot of moving and dancing and everything in it. It was the Harlem Renaissance, and the Harlem Renaissance was a thing that happened in New York, and it was in the early 1900s, and there was a lot of people who moved from the South to the North. They moved there because they was looking for better jobs and a better way of living. And so it was called the Great Migration. And when they moved up here, they got so involved in all the things that was happening at that time. There was a lot of music, there was singing, there was people who were athletes, there were things of them being artists, authors, illustrators. They were doing all kind of things. So there was a lot of people back in that time too. A lot of famous people like Louis Armstrong. There was Betsy Smith, Duke Ellington, Josephine Baker, Ma Rainey, Paul Robeson. There was so many people back in that day. There was a lady also named Faith Ringgold back in that day who did a lot of painting. And so hopefully during our time of reading stories this next season, I will read about some of those people to you. But this story is about Bojangle. Now, this is a picture of Bojangle. Look at him. He's all dressed up. And this was during the Harlem Renaissance. And so back then, the women wore these fancy headbands and they wore these long earrings. And the other thing that they would put on would be these long beads. So I'm going to put my beads on so I can get into the mood of doing my story of in the era of that time. And also, not only did they do that, they also put on something that were lots of fun. I'm going to show you what they are. What is that? A glove. They put on long, beautiful gloves. All the women back in those days, they used to wear these fancy gloves when they got ready to go out and dance and party. And they would have such a great time. And they would all be dressed up in all these things. Other things they might put on a wrap so that they would be all warm and snuggle when they would go as well. And so, and back in those days, again, it was called the Harlem Renaissance. And it was a good time. And in this story that we are reading today, there was an author and illustrator named Leo and Diane Dillion. And this is a picture of them. Now, they went to school together and they fell in love and they got married and they had a son. So they wrote and did the illustrations of this book, Rap a Tap Tap. Here's Bojangle. Think of that. There once was a man who danced in the streets. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. He brought pleasure and joy to the people he greet. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. He didn't just dance, he made art with his feet. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. Look at these movements that he's having with his feet, and he's just kicking around and dancing. He's tap dancing. He danced past doors. Some were open, some were closed. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. Look at the motions of his feet. He's really moving them. He danced past folks in fancy clothes. Look at these fancy clothes that the people have on. They have on these hats with the feathers. The men have on the suits. The women have on all the jewelry. Just like I told you, they had the big jewelry. And some wore headbands and some wore hats. And so in our picture today, the ladies have on hats. And it was rap a tap tap. Think of that. He danced through a place people call the skid. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. Look at the skid. This is a place where people who needed help could get it. They were giving food out. They was helping people stay warm. There was a preacher there who probably gave them a good word. And so sometimes people need help. He danced through crowds of laughing kids. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. His feet fairly flew as he tipped his hat. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. Look at all the people who playing instruments going along with his feet, him dancing, and they have all these different instruments, and he can dance to them. He briefly paused to pat an old cat. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. Look at all that fish in the market. You're right, Pat. Cat do like fish. So they may be there scoping it out, huh? He danced rain or shine in all kinds of weather. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. So, and it said in our story, rain or shine. See, what do these people have? You're right, Tony. He has some umbrellas. They all have umbrellas. So it must be raining, huh? People listen each day for his toe tapping chatter. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. Whoa, look at that big leap he's doing. He danced many rhythms that were seldom the same. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. Look at these instruments. They're totally different than the other instruments that the people were playing. These people have drums, maracas, and they have these little sticks that you rub together that makes noise. Dance was his passion, and it brought him fame. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. Now I'm gonna tell you something. Bojangle was in several movies, and one of the movies he was in, he was dancing with this little girl. They was tap dancing, and he was tap dancing up the stairs, and she was watching him, and then they did some taps together. They had lots of fun. Bojangle, Bojangle, that was his name. Rap a tap tap. Think of that. And he takes a bow, and I am taking a bow for you. Okay, so the name of our story was Rap a Tap Tap. Here's Bojangle. Think of that. And again, this was during the Harlem Renaissance time. There was the early 1900s, and there was a love of music, dance, reading, all different kind of things that was going on. And I'm hoping that during this season I'm going to read some more stories that introduce you to some other people who was in that time. And so I want to say thank you for joining me today, and I wish you well, my friends. I really enjoy reading this story to you, learning something else about Mr. Bojangle. I will see you next time. Thank you.